and get us. And I am going to go ahead and get us started. My name is Melissa Goff. I am your superintendent of schools, and welcome this evening. Really glad you're here. We are going to go through a few housekeeping pieces at the beginning and just share really briefly a few updates. And then the format of these meetings, if you haven't been a part of the meetings yet, is generally that you just get to ask whatever questions you have within the chat, and we answer them as quickly as we can with the best experts that we have within the system to do so. So before I introduce my colleagues who are on the call, I am going to do a little really brief talk, and then I'll introduce the folks on the call. So I wanted to just first share.
Before that, can we let David Jasmin welcome?
He did right before, but yes, David, please again.
Right before, he just let folks know we'd start at 7:02, but hasn't done the.
Oh, well, that's because I don't know Spanish, David. I apologize. Thank you. Thank you, Lisa.
Buenas tardes a todos. Queremos comenzar. Antes de empezar, solamente quiero repasar algunas cosas, unas reglas que queremos dejarles saber en cuanto a lo que es este foro. Como cualquier otro foro, recuerden por favor de que queremos oír sus comentarios, sus preguntas, así es que los encomiamos a que si hay alguna pregunta, algún comentario que quieran hacer. Tenemos los servicios de interpretación disponible y traducción. Por favor, los invitamos a que los incluyan en sus comentarios, en lo que es el chat, y estaremos aquí, el equipo del Centro de Bienvenida, ayudando con eso. De lo contrario, la reunión o el foro se va a llevar a cabo en inglés, a menos de que alguien nos indique que ocupe ese servicio de interpretación o traducción. Gracias.
Unmute.
All right. Thank you, David, and thank you, Patricia. I see that Patricia is also translating within the text, so thank you very much for that. Parents and caregivers, I just wanted to start with, I know we've talked, we've sent you a lot of information, and sometimes it can get overwhelming. I do want to make sure to address a few pieces of feedback that I've had this week that were not in the superintendent's update. They actually came as a result of the update, and I want to make sure to speak to those because I think they're really salient points that are occurring for many of you. So one is that we know that we have families who are in different socioeconomic circumstances right now, particularly due to COVID-19. And those circumstances may have changed for you, your ability to really keep your head above water with both bills that are needing to be paid and work circumstances, and then also looking at things such as internet service. So I wanted to give you a couple of contacts that you can follow up with following this call. One is Tara Dixon. She is fantastic. She's in our FACT office. Tara may be on this call. I know she was on an earlier call today. Her contact information will be typed into the chat. Another is our Welcome Center. So our Welcome Center also is great at providing support services, and we'll talk a little bit about that in a minute. And then the third is that we have some families who are still working with technology, internet service provider issues. And so we have a link for you where if you're having those situations, you can contact us and we can help navigate you through some of those issues. Another piece that we know is that many families are now in multifamily households where we have families living with close friends or relatives in order to be near each other during this pandemic or to be able to help in differing life circumstances. We know that one of the outcomes from that is not only the financial stress that may be on families, but in addition, the very real pressure that it puts on our internet bandwidth within homes. So you may have be used to having 2 students on your internet service at one time, but now you have 6 or maybe 7 kids at a time trying to access from your home. That's another piece that we would like to know about. And again, you can contact the email that is in the chat to let us know what circumstances you need support with. we know that that is particularly challenging. Our Welcome Center, in addition to supporting families throughout whatever circumstance, they also are fantastic at helping our families where the adults speak a language other than the students, which is particularly important right now because distance learning makes it sometimes more challenging for adults to be able to help with homework or to be able to ask the staff member questions that they want, that they need answers for in order to support their child. So please be sure to contact the Welcome Center if you need support in a language other than English. If you are a family, if you're caring for a student during the day and you may be less tech savvy, for whatever reason, it's not just age related, I would just say that I am one of you and you are one of me. And we have been working to develop resources for you to help you navigate through the systems such as Canvas, Pinnacle, etc., more easily. We have how-to videos now on our district website that should help you through those systems, help you learn some of the technology. We recognize that's not the only way we're going to be able to help you or we need to help, but right now you will see a link in your chat for that as well. We recognize that some families are in situations where we need to be paying close attention to students and privacy. And it's important to note that students do not need to have their cameras on. So we are not requiring that all students have their cameras on at all times. We are purposely not requiring that. We are highly recommending it, and we would love for kids to do that. However, we also recognize that we have students with high anxiety issues or for other reasons that the family may have would prefer to not have the camera on, in which case that is acceptable. I want to make sure that you know that. And but we do recommend that if there are circumstances where you would be comfortable with your student having the camera on, but maybe you're walking around the house a lot during the day because you're home all day, we recommend that you set the student up similarly to how I am right now, where there's a fairly blank wall behind the student. And there's not a lot of distance between where the student is sitting and the wall. So it's not an area that's well trafficked by you, so that you feel perhaps more comfortable having the camera on. We have students in special education, many of whom are well connected in right now and are getting their needs met by being hooked in with their specialist. If you are a family who may not have yet heard from your student's specialist, if your student is in special education, please reach out to your student's school so that we can make sure to get your child connected as quickly as possible. And then if you have a student with sensory needs, we know that there are circumstances here that are particularly jarring. So one of those is the crunchiness of the microphones as teachers are talking. So teachers have been using Chromebooks primarily to communicate with kids. We have ordered laptops for all of our teachers so that crunchiness of the feedback that kids are getting, that should go away once teachers get these new laptops. We also know that in some of our classrooms, you have multiple kids trying to talk at once, and that in and of itself for any of us, including if we are the adult across the room trying to do our work on a different computer, can be extremely distracting. We are working with our teachers to make sure that they understand how to mute all of the kids at one time and be able to call on students, or students can just turn their mics on and off themselves. But we want you to know that teachers are also still learning how to navigate through some of the protocols here as well. And so thank you for the feedback, and we will continue to be paying attention and sharing that information with our staff. And so with that, I just wanted to say thank you for being here tonight again. I'd like to introduce Assistant Superintendent Lisa Harlan, my partner in crime, who is doing a fantastic job, and I really appreciate her being tonight. So Lisa.
Thanks, Melissa. So we have with us tonight our middle school principals, as well as some other directors from the district office and our secondary directors. So what I'm going to do is introduce to you our secondary director. She might have just, oh, there she is. She's right there. And then I'll let her introduce the middle school principals that are on tonight. So Carrie Tatum is our secondary director. Carrie, if you'll say hi and introduce your crew.
Hi, I'm Carrie Tatum. I'm the secondary director, and I'm also helping with learning technology and technology right now. So if you have questions, I may be able to help you. I have all 4 of my principals, and I've seen at least 2 of our assistant principals in the meeting tonight. So Ken Gilbert, can you say hi?
Hi, everyone. Thank you for joining us. Memorial Families, probably the best, but no competition to the other schools. Thank you so much.
We do know how to mute him, so don't worry, we can take care of that. Tristan Heisley is also here.
Hello, welcome Calapooya families. Unfortunately, it says Jesse Heisley because I'm on my wife's computer right now because my laptop just died.
Nice to meet you, Jesse. And Stephanie Seals is in the house.
Hi, NAMS families. I'm so happy that you're here tonight. And regardless of what Mr. Gilbert says, we are the best, not Memorial.
And last but certainly not least, Jody Dodera.
Hi, welcome to Ridge Families. And I don't know that I want to get into this competition thing, but we do have really amazing families at Timber Ridge. So thanks for being present.
And thank you, principals, for being here.
Absolutely. And you can tell that our middle school principals, much like the students in their charge, are feisty and full of personality. So we are super excited to have them and you here. We also have Director of Special Programs, Ryan Mattingly. Thanks, Ryan, for waving. We also have Heather Huzefka in charge of federal programs. Her camera is off, but she's here in support. And then we also have from our amazing Welcome Center, Patricia Martinez and David Hasmin, who are helping with interpretation and translation. So before we get started with questions in the chat, David, if you would just like to one more time make sure that folks know that those services are available should they need it.
Buenas tardes a todos. Antes de continuar, ya se presentaron los directores y las directoras de las secundarias. Queremos recordar que estamos aquí para brindar apoyo en servicios de interpretación y traducción. Si hay alguien que ocupe ese servicio, por favor nos lo puede dejar saber en el chat. De lo contrario, la junta se llevará a cabo en inglés. Gracias.
Thanks, David. So this is the time where we open up the chat for any questions that you all have. So please feel free at the bottom of your screen, right in the middle, there should be a chat icon. You can click on that and go ahead and just type your questions in the chat, and we will get to them just in order as quickly as we can. And then if there are questions, we'll just take turns asking questions. And if there are questions that we're not sure of, that's when we'll throw it to our middle school principals and let them have a go at it. So don't be shy and feel free to post your questions in the chat. I see some of the comments. The other thing, we have some folks joining us by phone tonight, so we'll be sure to read the questions aloud just so everyone knows the question we're answering. And I do appreciate some of the parents who have already gotten on to show their support for their middle schools. So Francois, just shouting out some love to Memorial. Thank you, Ken, for getting that started. Yep, but if there are any questions, besides cheering on your middle school principals, feel free to post them.
So Lisa, I see the first question is from Emily, and she's asking, how are you addressing verbal bullying or teasing that may be occurring in the breakout sessions? So these are not in the whole group sessions, but in the breakout sessions. And I think this is a great question to ask a principal or two to speak to. I can start by just saying, please make sure if this is occurring for your child that you do let the teacher know that this is occurring so that the teacher can take action. And then Ken, since you're obnoxious, you can go first. And then Jody, since you're the nicest, you can go second. Well, no, I mean, she's not the nicest. She was just most supportive of others.
Thank you, Superintendent Goff. This is a great question, and it's a question that as we try to prepare for the school year, we being the middle school administrators, as well as our dean of students who are often involved with this, have thought about. And I'll tell you, it's difficult because teachers really want to use breakout rooms to get kids talking with each other. We know it's one of the best engagement tools for learning. But we only have one teacher in the room, or maybe another adult that's in the room to help monitor the breakout room. So there are times where kids are in the breakout rooms by themselves, and that makes it very difficult. But if something like this gets reported, there's a couple different things that we are doing. One of which is obviously talking to the student that's doing the bullying, and what is it that they're saying, contacting their parents, going through kind of a progressive process of what we would do with them. If it's bad enough and the teacher is able to find out while it's going on, the teacher does have the ability to move the student to a waiting room, much like you guys were before, when this meeting started. And then the teacher can have a conversation with that student before letting them back in class. And if it were to happen again, or if this is a repeated problem, we always have the option, and this would be, not something we want to do often, but removing them from the class and not letting them back in from the waiting room. And then again, getting in contact with their parents, sending them the video for the class for that day so they're not missing instruction. But we're not going to sit and just let them bully other kids. So first, conversations in education, trying to teach them how we act appropriately, whether it's in the virtual world or in person. And then after that, more progressive measures if we have to. Jody?
So Ken, thanks. I feel like you covered that fairly well, and it's not a whole lot different from school to school with how we're addressing it. We're trying to be really consistent in that. But as you mentioned, it is a challenge because kids are in breakout rooms and there may not be an adult there. So we are definitely relying on students to report that. I know that's a challenge for middle schoolers, but if it's happening, we really need kids to speak up and let their teacher know or an adult know. If your child comes to you as a parent and tells you about it, please report that to us so we can do something about it. We're going to address it just like we would if we were in person. One thing we're also doing is we keep a log. There's a form we use specific to harassment and bullying, and so we can make sure if there's a pattern of this happening that we address it in a different way. And parent contact is definitely something that's happening. And then also kind of trying to get behind what's going on, what's causing the behavior to happen.
Yep, thank you for that. And Francois adds, and I think this is a great point. He says, following Emily's question, can a student leave the breakout session at will if they are being subjected to bullying? And the answer is yes. Actually, when you're in a breakout room, there is a button on the screen that says something to the effect of leave to join the main room or return to the main room, that at any time you can. So we actually use Zoom too as administrators. And so, you could, if the conversation just wasn't great, you could just go back to the main room, or in worst case scenario, you could just log off, right? You could just get off completely and log back on and then tell your teacher, can I go to a different breakout room because Ken was being mean or bullying? Jody, I saw you had your hand up.
Yeah, another thing kids can do, and I don't know how likely it is that they would, but they can actually request the host, which is the teacher, to join their room. So that's another thing you can do. A way to do it and not just be blatant about it if you want it to stop is to request the host and just ask a question about your assignment or whatever it is. But you can request that. There's a way to notify the teacher that, hey, we want help in here. So that is another option as well.
So great question and some great advice. Carol asks, are teaching sessions or the lessons being recorded for later viewing? Middle school principal. So I'm seeing people nod, but does somebody want to take that question? Tristan, thank you.
Yeah, sure. So yes, lessons are being recorded. They're just being right now, at least at Calapooia Middle School, and I think it's the same at all the schools. It's being recorded into the cloud, and a student can go into the same place where they would access their Zoom meetings, and it's a couple tabs over. It just says cloud recordings, and the student can go into that, and it just has the recording right there from their previous lessons, or whichever lesson they need to see. It's all right there, right at their fingertips.
Thank you for that. And Francoise says, that's a great idea, and I don't think breakout rooms are being recorded. And that's correct. Breakout rooms are not. So thank you for that. And then David, the how-to on asking a teacher to join the Zoom meeting can be found in the videos that were recently posted. And then he says the breakout room. So thank you, David. But the how-to on how to join was a video that can be found in the link. So thank you as a reminder. And then our next question, Jen asks, how are advisory teachers or the school helping students stay organized and navigate many assignments from different classes in Canvas? It's a bit overwhelming to keep track even as a parent. So which one of our elementary principals? I'm going to give it to Stephanie. I think it might be her turn. Maybe I'll just go in order. Stephanie, do you want to take that one?
Sure. Our advisory teachers at NAMS meet with our students on Wednesdays, and we haven't gotten into the organizational of their assignments and their classes yet, but that is something that is in the works. Right now, the students are making sure that they have access to Canvas, making sure that they know how to access the modules and find the assignments and hit the turn in button and the submit button. And so our advisory teachers are ensuring that students know how to do that. It will come, and our core content teachers are the ones that are really helping with the organization as well. There's the 8:45 to 9 o'clock piece that at NAMS, the core content teachers are doing, making sure they're connecting with the kids, making sure that they're showing that they care, and then helping with organizational tools.
Great, thank you. Ken.
Yeah, Mrs. Hansen's a memorial parent, and we actually went over this as a staff today. And looked at a few different teachers are doing really well in this category, and others not quite as much with how they've organized their Canvas pages. And so we shared as a staff some exemplar Canvas pages for other teachers to hopefully pick up and learn from. We talked about some of the best ones we have are dated, and the teacher has on there during class, this is what we did, and this is when it's due, and then during asynchronous time, this is what we did, and here's when it's due. So it's very laid out, because I agree there's a lot, and we're dealing with middle school kids who are not always the greatest at organizing their stuff. So we will definitely keep working on that. But I just want to let you know, as a staff at Memorial, we did do that today, and we'll have to continue going over ways to help kids organize their work.
Thanks, Ken. Okay, so Allison has a question. We know that Canvas has many cool features, but one issue we run into this week is that we only realized this week by chance that the teachers were now using modules for both asynchronous work and homework assignments. It is a bit hard to see exactly what a student needs to do on which day. Would it be possible for teachers to use the calendar for both graded assignments and for asynchronous work? So which Principal Ken is out because he just spoke.
I
If
can
Tristan's
kind
available, oh, sorry, go ahead, Jody.
Well, Carrie, you can speak to it because you might know better. I think we appreciate your questions and feedback because I think we're all learning fairly quickly what works well for families and what doesn't. And so I think I'm not exactly sure. Carrie might be able to address the features of the calendar and how that would work best or better. But I do think that's one of the things that we are kind of trying to process through the best way to help bring more clarity. So as a staff, we're appreciating questions and feedback because it is helping us learn more about how it works out for you as families and what is helpful and what's not helpful. So that is a really great question. And Carrie might be able to speak to the calendar piece more, but I think we're working at figuring out how to organize things better each and every day in a way that makes it more clear for you. So
I see Tristan unmuted himself, and I'm wondering if he wanted to jump in or if that was an accident.
No, I was going to jump in. I don't exactly remember what I was going to say, but you know, I'm a parent myself of a 10 and a 12-year-old, and we're having the same struggles as parents in understanding what is due when, and you know, all that, where to find it. And so we're kind of going through this at the same time, like for myself as a parent and as an administrator. So we are, I'd say this is a work in progress, and we're going to make this so it makes more sense. I was hoping that at least at Calapooia Middle School, the week at a glance would have all of that information for the students. So a parent could scroll down to the very bottom of the page where it has the week at a glance, and it would have every synchronous and asynchronous assignment. We're not there yet, but it's my hope that that's where we will eventually be with that.
And then Carrie, did you have anything to add in terms of Canvas or the calendar? No, okay. And then Amber says, I've contacted the school and technology about a Chromebook we are using that the audio isn't working on and haven't been contacted back by technology. And the school told me they have a wait list. How can I get my son a replacement Chromebook? So Amber, I am going to give your name to Carrie and you will get a call tomorrow. Okay, Carol has a question. Yes, and there's a great answer for this too. Is there a parent account for Canvas that we can access to see the assignments? So who would like to take Tristan? Go for it.
Yeah, I'll take this one too, because as a parent, I'm in it all the time looking at it. So there's an app you can get for your phone. It's called Canvas Parents, I think, and you have to pair your account with your student account, and there's some instructions online. I'm not sure if they're on the district webpage, but I'm pretty sure most of the schools sent that out, and we can send it out again if need be. But once you pair your child to your phone, you can see all their assignments. You can see the grades they got on the assignments. You can see what's upcoming for them. It's really nice because when I get home from work each day, I sit down and look at my kids' grades, and we have a conversation some days that they don't like. So it's a pretty handy tool.
And the way that you do that, actually, Carrie just posted the link into the group chat for the what is the Canvas Parent app and how to be able to do that. So you can click on the link. The other thing to know too is you can control the settings in Canvas for how you get notifications. So on one of the other forums that we had parents say, I have the app and I'm getting too many emails, notifications, or my child is. And so just know you can go in and decide what your notifications are, how and what type of notification you want. Do you want a notification every time an assignment is graded and entered? Do you want one every time? So you have that ability in the settings. So thank you, Carrie, for posting that link. I think that's super helpful for parents. So the next comment from Jen, no, I don't think it's possible to modify Canvas parent account setting from the mobile app, such as email notifications. I had to log in on the GAPS Canvas website to access settings. That is probably true, that you have to log in from a laptop or a PC to do the settings and not on your phone. Thank you for that, Jen. Thank you. Amber just shared Thank you to NAMS. NAMS teachers are absolutely rocking it. And then Amanda said, yes, my son is really liking all of his 7th grade NAMS teachers. Thank you to staff. And so one of the things that I'll let you all know, and I'll have Andrew actually post, is that we have, they already have. Melissa says, thanks for the positive feedback and comments. Feel free to go to a link. And so we've created a link that people can just go on, just like a Post-it note, write a sentence or two of a shout out to a teacher that's doing a great job, and they'll be able to see that, because it has been tough for kids and families, and certainly for teachers these first few weeks. And so one positive comment can keep our teachers going for weeks and weeks. It means the world to them. So if you have a few seconds to give a shout out to somebody, I know they would certainly, that would make their whole week. So look for the Padlet link in the chat that Melissa Goff put in there. So thank you for that. Okay. And I am just scrolling through. So Lynn asks, in Canvas, under grades score, what does the oversized T mean? So I am looking.
I could probably turn this over to Tristan. I think that considering he's using, no? Okay. I can definitely look into it.
I'm looking right now.
Okay. And then I also see David has his hand up. So David, go ahead.
Yeah, we were doing the translation of the videos, and if I recall correctly, that's the option for your student to be able to text or write with the keyboard on there. So if you click on the T, it will allow you to have a text, and then you can type in your name, or depending on what the assignment's asking you to do.
David Hasmin, the man, the myth, the legend. Thank you. Okay. Francoise asks, are there any solid plans for TAG students? So Melissa, did you want to talk about our,
Yeah, I can talk just briefly about this. So Oregon State University met with us a few weeks ago, and they have put forward an application to the Linn County Commissioners for some of the enrichment and childcare resources to allow them to provide supports for our middle school students. And I think it may be 4th through 8th grade students, TAG students, that would be facilitated by Oregon State. And they should find out on that grant on Friday or Monday of this week. And so they would like to get started as soon as possible. That may look like afternoon times for enrichment, and it may look like Wednesday times as well, or instead of. So we are going to be able to share more about that after we find out about the success of the grant. And then the next question I see from Laura, can you explain why there is such a short amount of instruction time in the middle school schedule? For example, my son is only getting math instruction twice a week, but has over 2 hours of time in the afternoon to do work. So Carrie, would you like to take that one?
Sure. I was just double checking to make sure that I was still unmuted. So one of the things that we wanted to do at the middle school level is kind of focus on relationships and having a few core group of teachers that were having access to students. One of the other creating really deep relationships with students. One of the other things that we wanted to focus on at the middle school level is ensuring that we had like math all throughout the year and science all throughout the year, where if we were to go with kind of a longer schedule, like maybe the high school, we wouldn't necessarily have something like that. So added into that, and the fact that students have about 6 classes, we wanted to make sure that the class time that they had with the teachers was really interactive, kind of set them up for success with the the asynchronous learning. One of the other things within our schedule that we wanted to account for is some of the different supports, some of the small groups, special education, our BEP program, AVID, and some of our other electives. And if we extended that day, it would make it harder for some of those electives to fit into the schedule and for us to be able to do that. So there were a couple different factors that played into that, but those are a couple of the main ones. We wanted to give kids the opportunity to have as much variety in their day as possible.
Thank you for that, Carrie. And we're going to keep going. So we got a question that says, how do you get the student pairing code for Canvas parent accounts? I have 3 kids to pair with. And then Andrew Tomsky, our communications director, thank you, Andrew. In the chat, put the information in a link so that you could just click on that link and it would tell you how to do that. So thank you for that. We also had, I might have, yes, sorry, I think I accidentally skipped. Carol says, the break between the core classes ending at noon and the 3 o'clock electives, specifically choir and algebra, is difficult. Kids getting disinterested during that long period of time. And then in the chat, Ken explains to just say, I'm sorry, it's causing disinterest with other classes involved in the afternoon. We were trying to get as few conflicts as possible with kids' schedules. So thank you for that. Lisa just writes, at Timber Ridge, I want to give kudos to the 6th grade teachers. Super quick responses on email questions. Great work. Thank you, Lisa. We will pass that on to that 6th grade team. We appreciate that. And then Lynn posts, I tried clicking on the oversized T and it didn't show anything. Sometimes I see a little piece of paper with a writing icon. So we will check that out because I think it's supposed to allow you to type there. So we will write that down and hopefully have an answer maybe before we end tonight. Laura then posts, thank you. His Timber Ridge 6th grade teachers have been amazing. So another shout out to Timber Ridge. Thank you for that. You know, it was interesting. We had middle school, no, this is middle school. We had elementary school and high school earlier in the evening. And one of the really interesting things, one of the comments that we got on the elementary session was, why are we not doing what the middle school is doing? And kind of stacking some academic things in the morning and then, you know, asynchronous time in the afternoon. And at the time I jokingly said, can you come to the middle school session when that happens? Because I think we're going to get the question in the opposite. And so, you know, one of the things that's been really tough is just really trying to meet the needs of everyone and all of our families in this environment. And we just know everyone's needs are so different, and just trying to meet folks where they're at. We know we had some questions previously too around, you know, we're 2 working parents. We cannot have our 2 children on some of the synchronous lessons. And it seems like it's too much work when we get home from work. We're going through and having them watch the lessons and do the work, but it's too late at night and the motivation is low. And it seems like too much work. And so we explained part of the reason we have Wednesdays structured the way that we do is to allow for families to have more time to be able to do those things. And we just know that it's not going to meet everyone's need perfectly. And we know that just people are in super different situations. So I just thank you everyone for hanging in there with us, because I know it's been really hard for everybody, parents, families, caregivers, students, grown-ups, and our teachers who are teaching their own classes and their own children, right? And trying to figure that out too. So Shauna, Shauna says, I wish, she said, I wish elementary was doing what middle school is doing. So you have more, she said, I'm exhausted going back and forth between 3 kids. So for parents that have children at different levels, yeah, absolutely. Avery, thank you. She said Memorial staff has been amazing. So thank you.
Lisa, just to interrupt for a second, there was another question that popped up to me a second ago about electives for middle school, and just a clarification, it's that they do start at 12:30. They just run from 12:30 to 3, in case that was confusing to people. we have them for a half an hour a piece, and because we have multiple different things, they have to be staggered throughout the afternoon. So the one your child might be in might be one of those that starts later. I believe our latest is 2:45. They vary a little bit from school to school, but it's pretty similar. So we go 12:30 to 3 or 3:15, just to
So
clarify
you
that.
might have an elective that starts at 12:45 or 1, or your elective might start later just based on which elective it is.
Yeah, so that's why it's spaced out.
Great.
And we're not waiting.
Can I add something too?
Sure.
Yeah, I just wanted to address the question about like the length of classes in the afternoon. Just that I think all 4 middle schools are planning on doing some small group instruction in the afternoons, but we can't really start that until we know what our student needs are. So our teachers are starting to learn about our students and what they need. And once we know that, there will be some instruction that's happening in the afternoon for kids that need a little extra help with math or reading or writing. But we don't have that built in yet because we don't know what we need quite yet.
Yes, so it's just open where the kids can get help on their own, but it will be more targeted and directed in the future.
As we assess where kiddos are at. So Stacy Lee, who's our curriculum coordinator, put some information specifically regarding TAG and TAG facilitators and teacher support and parent contact in the chat. And then also, Sean has a question, and I do believe there is a way to do this as a setting for you, but Sean asks, is there a way to separate the parent Canvas account to view just one child at a time? When I log in, it lists all my kids' classes together in a giant list, but not by student name. So with many children having multiple teachers, it makes it very hard to remember whose is whose. And so I believe there is a way to do that in the setting to be able to see one child at a time. And we will figure out what that is and either link it in the chat or respond before our time is up. Because yes, if you had more than one child, a giant list of all of the work and assignments would be difficult for sure. Shauna asks, what are all the electives? I thought only band and choir. So I'll let Stephanie or Ken take that one.
I can take it. I can give it a shot. So I believe electives are going to vary from school to school based on the staff that they have and their expertise and talents. So at NAMS, we have AVID 6th grade dual immersion class. We have all the different kinds of bands except for jazz band. We have choir. We offer 7th, 8th grade leadership. And then we also offer a number of our reading intervention courses so that we don't have to pull them from the core content classes in the morning time. And then we also are going to be offering counseling services, so like small groups, one-on-one individual counseling. Whereas in the past, when we're in brick and mortar, those students are pulled out of their content classes and it's difficult for them. So there's a lot of opportunity that we have with this afternoon session.
Any other questions from our middle school? Oh, Tristan, there he goes.
Oh, I saw that Shauna, her son is at Calapooia. So we have pretty much the same elective choices: band, choir, AVID, leadership, bilingual education. That's about it in the afternoons right now.
Great, thank you. Okay, and so I super appreciate, and I don't know if I've highlighted it with this group yet, but this has happened every single time we've had a forum. I've seen it over and over on our Facebook accounts. I've seen it over and over in different ways. And that is people jumping in to help other people. It's part of what I love about this community. And so Sean's question about the mobile app, Jen jumped on and said, my kids are separate in the mobile app. And then I only have a desktop computer, so mobile isn't an option. So people really jumping on to try and help other people, like, this is what I've experienced, this is how I've done this. And I've seen that over and over with parents and teachers, and just how supportive this whole community has been with each other. And I get to see that every day. So I just super appreciate that. And I echo for sure Ken's words. So Ken in the chat starts off in his Ken way about Memorial parents and Memorial, because he is true to his school, but just says how awesome Albany parents have been. So just a very sincere thank you for your understanding and patience as we all work through this. And that has certainly been my experience with parents and caregivers helping other caregivers and teachers. So thank you for that. So Carrie Tatum, who is our secondary director, on the chat for Sean, just says, I believe you can still log in as a parent online, and that we will search specifically for those directions and get those to you. Christy says, so if your student, middle school student, isn't a band, choir, leadership, or avid kid for electives and not in need of intervention, then they just end school for the day before noon. My student is at NAMS.
So since the core content classes have really started in action this week, there is a lot, there is asynchronous homework being assigned. So it's being assigned on the Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday. It could be assigned in the morning by the advisory teacher. It could be assigned on the Tuesday by their math, science, language arts, or social studies teacher. And we want students to be able to do projects. We want students to get together online and work through their projects that they're doing. So it will progress as we move forward in the school year. As we get deeper into the content, students will be working together in the afternoon sessions.
And so those afternoon sessions are a time to do their asynchronous work. And I think that pretty much, Stephanie, I appreciate that. And as different small groups start up, as we assess students and where they're at in terms of reading and math levels, that's a possibility as well. So Allison asks, is there a certain day or day of the week that teachers are updating their modules for the week? I'm looking for, Ken, was that your hand, Jody?
Yeah, I can only speak for Memorial on this one because we haven't talked about this as a as a whole admin group for middle school. But at this point, for Memorial anyway, the answer is no. There's not one day. Teachers are constantly working and updating their pages every day, and so right now for Memorial, there's not a day that we're expecting. That everything is posted for, you know, the next week or whatever it may be.
Jody?
I'm unmuted because I just didn't beat Ken to it, but same as what Ken said. So it's something I think that we'll work on becoming more consistent with, but right now it hasn't been an agreed upon thing yet.
Okay. So that's something that would be great to take back to teachers. If through buildings, they could have an agreement about the day that they are updating their modules. So parents and students knew, okay, on this day that would be updated. So that's a great suggestion. Thank you for that. Okay, so it's 7:50. We have a few minutes left. And I think, unless please somebody stop me, that I've gotten through the questions unless I have missed them. So if you think I've missed your question, it's very possible. But will you just please retype it or resubmit it in the chat so that we just don't leave any questions unanswered? And then I see Ken raised his hand again. Ken, do you want to jump in there?
Well, I just wanted to add in that in some cases, our teachers are not going to want to post stuff in Canvas ahead of time because there's lessons or parts of lessons they don't want students working ahead. Potentially, and so depending on what it is, may not be posted, you know, a week in advance or something like that.
I think the next comment that I see from Carol is, I hope as we continue to learn how best to distance learn, teachers will encourage and attempt class discussions rather than just talk and have everyone on mute. And I think you're probably finding that to different degree, also depending on the teacher and their experience with using these types of technologies and the different configurations of students within the classroom. So yes, we do too. We are working with teachers. It's part of the reason that we really emphasize the breakout rooms, and we recognize that need to also be able to monitor what's happening within the breakout rooms and make those safe spaces. But ideally, we are able to, teachers and students are able to engage in conversations and discussions just as they would in a generalized classroom. So where they're typically all together. Carrie?
I just wanted to add, that's actually a kind of a common thing that middle school and especially high school teachers talk about. At the elementary level, you can't get the kids to unmute, or sorry, to mute themselves. They're talking about their shoe and their dad and their cat and, you know, what they had for dinner last night. At the high school level, you can barely get them to turn on their camera, and they won't talk unless they're directly called on. And I would assume that the middle school is probably, you know, a little bit closer to the high school in that area, but that is definitely something that teachers also want, because it's very odd as a teacher and as an educator just to talk to a screen. I know that all of us in this meeting get super excited when we see each other in like 3 dimensions. So we definitely hear you.
And thank you. There are a couple super nice comments there at the end. I just reshared the Padlet because those comments are so awesome, and the staff at your schools appreciate them even more than the principals of the schools do, and they certainly appreciate it. But if you can just link there and just add those, you can cut and paste from what you've just put in there. They'd love to see it, and but we will certainly pass that on to staff as well. Thank you to the principals. Thank you to Carrie and Ryan. Thank you particularly to Assistant Superintendent Harlan, who has facilitated all 3 of these conversations tonight. To David and to Patricia, thank you for all of your support throughout the evening as well. And we recognize, I love all your great comments. Thanks, you guys. We recognize that people are going to have different pressure points or stress points. And so we will be continuing these forums. We will not be having them as frequently, but we are continuing them. And so we have found them to be a good communication tool for us. Hopefully they are for you as well. We recognize that a lot of your communication now is shifting over to be from the schools rather than from the district. So we want to stay out of the way of the schools and their relationship with you, but also create opportunities where you think there's maybe system-wide questions that you may have, or just want to learn a little bit more about what's happening across the system, that you're able to come to these forums. So thank you to the staff for taking time tonight for this forum. And I hope you all have a good night's sleep, and we'll get at it again tomorrow. Thank you. Good night.